There was screaming coming from your house. I'd been out of town for 2 weeks. Only my parents had keys. I didn't yell. I installed hidden cameras. The next time I left, I watched the footage, and my jaw dropped. 30 minutes later, police were involved. The thing you need to know is that I lock my house like I'm expecting a home invasion every Tuesday. Deadbolt, double cylinder, keypad lock, the works. It's not paranoia. I just travel for work a lot. I'm a consultant, one of those vaguely high-stress, high billable hour jobs where I spend half my life solving other people's chaos and the other half pretending it's fine that I come home to an empty house with leftovers from last week and an unopened electric bill stuck to the fridge with a magnet that says live, laugh, love in fake cursive. The irony isn't lost on me. Anyway, I got back last Sunday after 2 weeks in Denver. Back-to-back client meetings, 3 days of cold airport sandwiches, and one hotel room that definitely had a bloodstain under the armchair. All I wanted was a shower, a frozen burrito, and to not speak to another human being until Wednesday. Instead, I got Greg. Greg is my neighbor. Mid-40s, balding in a defiant way, wears socks with sandals, and mows his lawn like it's a competition he's been training for his entire life. He's also weirdly nice, which is suspicious all on its own. I just stepped out to grab groceries, barely even locked the door behind me. He was standing in his driveway, squinting at me like I was an alien that landed slightly off course. "Hey," he said. I nodded. "Hey." Then he gave me this look, half concerned, half bracing. "Is everything okay at your place?" I blinked. "Yeah, why?" He rubbed the back of his neck. We've been hearing some stuff from your house at night." "What kind of stuff?" He paused, screaming. I stared at him. "Sorry, what?" He looked dead serious. "Screaming. Couple nights ago. And before that, too. It was loud. My wife thought someone was hurt. We almost called the cops." I laughed. "Because what else do you do when someone says they've heard screaming coming from your house?" "That's not possible," I said. "I've been out of town 2 weeks. The house was empty." Greg just stared at me. Then he nodded slow, like he was humoring me. "If you say so." I shrugged. "I do." "Right." He stepped back toward his garage. "Just keep it down next time, okay?" And that was it. He turned and left me standing on my own damn sidewalk, holding my keys, trying to process the idea that apparently my house had been screaming while I was gone. No big deal. I went back inside, locked the door behind me like that would help. The house was quiet. Tidy? Maybe even a little too tidy. I noticed it when I walked past the hallway. The mirror was cleaner than I remembered. And the floor, my floor, has never gleamed. I don't gleam things. I Swiffer them, like a normal adult who doesn't have time for perfection. Then upstairs I saw it. My bed, made. Not just pulled together, hotel made. Corners tucked military tight, pillows fluffed, blanket turned down at the perfect angle like someone had watched one too many cleaning reels and decided to turn my bedroom into a Pinterest board. That's when the dread kicked in. Not fear exactly, just that quiet, creeping sense of something's off. And I already knew who had done it. So I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring, sounded cheerful, which was also suspicious. "Hi, sweetheart. How was your trip?" "Fine," I said. "Quick question. Were you at my place?" "Oh, I stopped by, watered the plants. You really should have left better instructions for the orchids, by the way." I had to improvise. "And did you make my bed?" She laughed. "Well, somebody had to. You left it a mess." I exhaled slowly. "Mom, I told you before." "Oh, come on. I didn't touch anything else, just the bed. And I ran the vacuum and wiped down the counters and reorganized the spice drawer. You had 3 containers of paprika, Lisa." I closed my eyes. "You didn't bring anyone, right?" I asked. "Of course not. Why would I bring anyone? Don't be ridiculous." I didn't argue, not because I believed her, just because I didn't have the energy to decode a lie on top of a crime scene made of cinnamon and rearranged bedding. She hung up after a few minutes of unsolicited cleaning advice and one last reminder that I should really be dating more because I'm not getting younger and there's nothing wrong with engineers. I sat on the edge of the perfect bed, staring at the too clean floor, and felt the edges of my calm start to fray. Later that day, I went back outside. I didn't want to, but I had to. Greg was in his garage again, moving boxes around like he was building a fort. I approached slowly, like someone trying not to startle a skittish animal. "Hey," I said. He glanced over. "Hi." I rubbed my hands together. "Can I ask, what exactly did you hear from my house?" He hesitated. "I'm not accusing anyone," I added. I wasn't there, so I'm trying to figure out what happened. Greg looked past me toward my house, then back at me. There were people, he said, coming and going, different ones. I didn't recognize them. When? A few nights ago, around midnight, the night before that too. I swallowed. And the screaming? He scratched his beard. It wasn't yelling or fighting. It was like someone in pain. Not normal. Not fun. I didn't say anything. He added, "It's not the first time either. I didn't say anything before, but this happened back in March too. Not as bad, but similar. There was one night around the 10th. Loud noises, people coming and going. And again in early June. I remember because it was the night before my daughter's dance recital." I nodded slowly, even though I felt anything but steady. "Look," he said, softer now. "I'm not trying to cause trouble, but whatever's going on over there, it's not nothing." I went back inside, locked the door again, then I pulled out my planner. March 10th, I was in Atlanta. June 2nd, I was in Denver. My mom had said she watered the plants. Nothing more. But there were people in my house, and screaming, and me, hundreds of miles away, thinking the house was empty. I wasn't living alone. I was just the only one paying rent. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't check the locks. Didn't even brush my teeth. I just lay in bed, the same bed someone else had made for me, trying not to picture things I couldn't unsee. The screaming, the strangers, the pattern. March, June. Every time I went away, something happened in my house. And the worst part, I had no idea what. Not really. People coming and going, music, screaming. My bed made wrong, my floors too clean. It was like someone had scrubbed away the surface of my life and painted something else underneath, something I wasn't supposed to notice. But I had noticed, and now I couldn't unnotice it. If you want to understand how this all started, you have to understand my family. And by family, I mostly mean my parents, my sister, and me. One of these things is not like the others. My parents used to be hippies, not the cute kind that makes their own soap and shops at farmers markets. I mean real hippies. Drum circles, herbal tea with questionable herbs, group therapy in someone's garage. My mom used to wear a batik shawl and talk about energy shifts before she got pregnant with me and swapped the shawl for a job at a shipping office and a 2-bedroom in the suburbs. They never really forgave me for that, by the way, for being the reason they had to get responsible. Growing up, there were always little remnants of their past floating around, books on Tantra buried under stacks of unpaid water bills, incense holders next to the tax folders, a dream catcher above the bed in the guest room no one was allowed to use, and of course, the philosophy. They were big believers in sharing, which sounds nice, until you realize what that actually meant in practice. I was born first, 2 years older than my sister, so naturally I got the bigger room. That was my first mistake. Because once my sister turned 5 and decided she wanted to turn her bedroom into a dance studio, which lasted 3 weeks, my parents said I didn't really need all that space. I wasn't even using it. Wouldn't it be nicer, more fair, if she had access to both rooms? That became the pattern. Books, share them. Toys, share them. My bike, well, she needs to learn to ride, doesn't she? And if I didn't want to share, well, that just meant I was selfish, controlling, unspiritual. Someone who hadn't yet unlearned capitalist attachment to material goods. Yes, that's a real quote from my father. I was 8. The sharing was always one-directional. She never had to give anything up, not her toys, not her privacy, not her closet. I was the strong one, the generous one, the one who already had enough. So I learned to let go, of fairness, of space, of expecting anything to actually belong to me, until I got older. And I got tired of it. I worked through college, graduated early, landed an IT consulting job that paid well and aged me 10 years in 2. I bought my own place at 29, not a mansion, but solid. 3 bedrooms, a little yard, decent light. The kind of house that felt like breathing room after a lifetime of being told to scoot over. My parents hated it. "You don't even have a family," my mom said once, like that was a moral failing. "What do you need all this space for?" I didn't respond. My sister had 2 kids by then, married to a guy who wore socks with cartoon faces and called everyone bro. They had a smaller house in the next town over, a fixer-upper. They never actually fixed. Every time my parents visited, they came back with fresh ammo. "Your sister is drowning in bills. The kids need room to play. It's not fair that you have all this and she's struggling." At first, I offered what I could. I babysat, I paid for a weekend trip. I helped replace a busted washing machine once. But it wasn't enough. Because what they wanted, What they eventually said out loud was for me to downsize, sell my house, move somewhere smaller, and give the difference to my sister. "You're barely home anyway," my dad said. "Why waste it?" I said no, calmly, firmly, without guilt. And they did not take it well. For a while, they stopped talking to me, unless it was through group chats or awkward family dinners. Then my mom started thawing. One day, she called out of the blue and said, "I've been thinking about your orchids. I'd be happy to water them when you travel." That's how it started. Just watering plants. Then it was, "I noticed the rug needed vacuuming, so I did it. Hope that's okay." Then, "You really should declutter your entryway. I tidied up a bit while I was there." Then, "I had to redo your bed. You're folding the top sheet wrong. You're not in a hotel." It got weirder. Once I came home to find the spice rack rearranged alphabetically, and not in English. She used Latin. Another time, the kitchen table was wiped down and reset with placemats I didn't own. I told her gently to stop. She told me it was her new hobby. "I've been watching cleaning tutorials," she said. Like that explained why my laundry was folded into swans and my socks were sorted by chakra. I didn't push it. Because, and I hate this, part of me was just grateful she was speaking to me again. That I hadn't been cut off entirely for refusing to bankrupt myself in the name of sibling equality. But the timeline kept bothering me. Her cleaning hobby started around the same time my sister upgraded to a bigger house, one with a backyard and a walk-in closet and a mortgage she definitely couldn't afford on her own. I remember asking once, casually, how they managed it. My sister just smiled. "We had help." "From who?" She didn't say. And I didn't ask. Because some part of me already knew that if I scratched too hard at the surface, I'd find something rotting underneath. Something I wouldn't be able to ignore. I just didn't know how bad it was yet. Not then. Not yet. I didn't want to be the kind of person who installs hidden cameras in her own home. I wanted to be normal. Boring. Even the kind of woman who says, "Thanks, Mom," when her mother offers to water the plants, and then doesn't wonder if that's code for something else. The kind of woman who locks her door and assumes that when she comes back, the bed will still be made the way she left it. But after what Greg told me, the screaming, the strangers, the way he looked at me like I was lying, when I said the house was empty, I couldn't be that woman anymore. So I made a decision. My next work trip was already booked. Boise. 3 days. A full rollout meeting with an overseas team. I'd be gone. The house would be empty. And my mother, who already knew my schedule, would absolutely find a reason to stop by. Before I left, I installed 5 cameras. Living room, kitchen, hallway, entryway, bedroom. All of them small, cloud-connected, audio-enabled, tucked neatly into bookshelves above cabinets, behind plants. Perfectly legal, perfectly necessary. I didn't know what I was going to find, but I knew I was done guessing. I sent my mom a message the night before my flight. "Hey, off to Boise tomorrow. If you want to water the plants, thank you, but please don't do anything else while I'm gone. No cleaning, no reorganizing, just plants." She replied with, "I'll try not to clean. You know how I am. Safe travels." Which is the kind of text that would sound innocent from any other person. From her, it felt like a trap. First night, nothing. She came by around noon, watered the plants, rearranged a framed photo, wiped something on the counter that didn't need wiping. Annoying, familiar. No screaming, no guests. Just the usual maternal chaos disguised as help. I watched it all that evening from my hotel, laptop open, headphones in, anxiety somewhere in the back of my throat like a swallowed marble. It was quiet. I didn't relax. Second night, I opened the feed around 8 p.m. At first, everything was still. Dim lighting, no movement. Then the front door opened, and someone stepped inside. Not my mother. Broad-shouldered, a duffel bag slung over one arm. He walked through the living room like he'd done it before. No hesitation, no pause. 2 minutes later, someone else entered. Then another, a woman with a long silver braid and a wine bottle. Another woman in boots and a red shawl. A man with a folding chair. No one knocked. No one spoke loudly. They all moved like they belonged. I stared at the screen. I didn't blink. Then my phone rang. "Hey, where are you? Our call with the India team started a few minutes ago." Crap. I'd completely forgotten because of the time difference. It was morning for them. Just another Tuesday. For me, it was the beginning of something I didn't have words for. I closed the feed, grabbed my work laptop, joined the Zoom. I'm not going to pretend I remember what the meeting was about. Imagine this. You've just seen strangers walk into your house. Not your neighbor, not a friend. Strangers. with bags and wine and folding chairs. Then imagine switching windows and pretending to care about enterprise data syncing while someone named Rishi walks you through a slide deck you don't understand on a normal day. I nodded, smiled, probably agreed to things I'll regret later. Inside, I was spiraling. Outside, I was muted. The meeting lasted 30 minutes. Felt like 10 hours. As soon as it ended, I opened the camera feed again. I wish I hadn't. The living room was full. People were spread across the furniture like it was theirs. Lights dimmed, music playing. Something soft and rhythmic. There was laughter. Someone lit a candle. I saw a man in nothing but boxer briefs lounging across my sofa. A woman cross-legged on the rug opening a small black case. A handful of unmistakably adult items laid out across my coffee table. Something made of leather, something shiny, something that moved. Someone else walked barefoot through the hallway holding what looked like a blindfold. She giggled as she passed the bookshelf where I'd hidden the camera. She looked straight at it, not into it, just near it. But still I felt cold. This is my house. This is my sofa. This is my table. I eat lunch there. I put coffee mugs there. And now this. I closed the laptop fast like it was hot, like it could burn me. I was still staring at the ceiling when my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Hi, is this Lisa Kessler? Yes. This is Officer Brennan with Maple Glen PD. We're responding to a report of a gathering at your residence tonight. Are you aware of anyone currently using the property? I swallowed. No, I'm in Boise. I'm not home. We've had several individuals on site express concern after discovering surveillance devices inside the home. Some were unaware they were being recorded. Your parents are currently present and say they had permission to use the space. They didn't. You're listed as the homeowner, correct? Yes. Can you confirm whether anyone was given permission to host an event at the house? No. I told my mom she could water the plants. I sent her a message. That's it. Do you still have that message? Yes, I can send it. All right, you may be contacted for a formal statement. As of now, you're not in any legal trouble, but you should be aware there may be zoning or licensing issues under review. Okay, we'll follow up. He hung up. I didn't. I just sat there, still staring at the screen, still trying to process the fact that I hadn't imagined it, still trying to unsee everything I'd seen, and knowing I never could. 15 minutes after the police call ended, my phone rang again. This time it was my mother. I almost didn't answer. I stared at the screen like it might bite me. But curiosity is louder than fear, and I still hadn't heard her voice since I saw people stripping down in my living room and laying out bondage gear on my coffee table. So I picked up. Sweetheart, hey, listen. Just tell the police you knew, okay? That was her opening line. Not, are you okay? Or, this isn't what it looked like. Not even a please don't be mad. Just tell them you knew. I blinked. What? That you gave us permission. That we could use the house. It was just a little get-together, like the old days. Old days? You know, community events. People we trust. It wasn't anything dangerous. Just tell them it was okay. Please. I stood up and walked to the window of my hotel room. I could see the parking lot. A minivan parked sideways across two spaces. A woman trying to untangle her toddler from her own scarf. Everything looked normal. So painfully normal. Mom, I said, what were you doing in my house? Silence. I saw people, I said. I saw what was on my rug, on my table, on my sofa. What the hell was that? We can explain, just not right now. No, what were you doing? It wasn't illegal. We didn't hurt anyone. It was private, and someone overreacted and called the police because they found a camera. Yes, a camera I installed, in my own house, because you've been using it without telling me. Another silence. Then my father's voice, quiet. Lise, we didn't think you'd understand. So you decided not to give me the chance. We thought you'd try to stop it. You were right. I hung up before they could say anything else. I didn't slam the phone. I didn't throw it. I just set it down on the edge of the table and stared at it like it had become someone else's problem. 3 days later, I got a message request on Facebook from someone I hadn't spoken to in at least a decade. One of my parents' old friends. Gray hair, poetry blog, probably still drinks chamomile tea like it's a personality. The message was calm, apologetic, almost too kind. I didn't know they didn't have your permission. We were told you were aware and comfortable. I'm so sorry. If it helps, this is the website they used to organize. There was a link. No name, no logo, just a clean, private-looking URL. I clicked it. The site was beautiful in that sterile, over-designed way that makes you feel like you're about to accidentally join a cult. Muted colors, calming fonts, words like freedom through trust, rotating safe spaces, private curated gatherings. Suggested donations $400, $850, $12 $200. A calendar of events. Every date lined up with one of my business trips. Each location was listed vaguely, but I recognized the photos. One had a wine glass resting on a table I refinished myself during lockdown. Another had the rug my mom kept saying was too plain. They hadn't borrowed my house. They'd featured it. There was a host alias. The email address attached had my mother's old nickname from her hippie days in it, just spelled backward. I closed the laptop. Not in anger, not even in horror, just in finality. They showed up 4 days later. No text, no warning. Just a knock on the door and the slow, exhausted sound of two people pretending they weren't panicking. You didn't have to escalate it, my mother said as soon as I opened the door. We could have handled this as a family. I didn't escalate anything, I said. One of your guests called the police. I didn't even know it was happening. But you told them everything. I told the truth. We were trying to help your sister, she said. She needed support. You said no. She needed a bigger house, I said. I didn't think that made her entitled to mine. We couldn't use ours, my father added. People know us here. Yours was neutral. Neutral? I repeated. That's what I am now? You were gone most of the time. The house was sitting empty. It wasn't empty, I said. It was mine. They didn't reply. They left with the same silence they brought with them. The fallout wasn't loud. It was worse than that. Licensing violations, zoning complaints, a cease and desist from the city, a letter from the IRS asking about unreported income. One of the guests sued them for emotional distress and breach of privacy. They didn't go to jail, but they paid. Financially, socially, quietly. The website was shut down. The network went dark. And all the friends they used to gather with stopped returning calls. My sister called next. I hope you're satisfied. Excuse me? They were trying to help me, and now Dan and I have to move. They can't help with the mortgage anymore. So you're blaming me? You didn't have to go nuclear. You could have protected them. They used my house without permission. They did it for me. No, they did it without asking. They didn't ask me. They didn't ask you either, did they? That was the end of that. I sold the house. Didn't post it. Didn't tell anyone. Hired a real estate agent. Packed up the evidence. Signed the papers. The new place is smaller, quieter, farther away. It smells like new paint and no one else's decisions. I didn't leave a key under the mat. I didn't give anyone a copy. They tried calling once, maybe twice. No voicemails. Dismissed calls I let stay missed. Eventually they stopped. There was no dramatic ending. No last-ditch apology. Just the quiet understanding between people who know when something's over and aren't willing to say it out loud. We didn't fall out. We just stopped pretending we were still in orbit. They thought I'd protect them. I thought they'd protect me. As it turned out, we were both wrong. So that's what happened. Some people said I overreacted. Others said I let them off too easy. What do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments.